Today's topic, Reverend Ike. Listen, anytime somebody is first to do something, anytime somebody steps outside of the box and does something unconventional, they're always going to be the ones to receive the shots and the comments and the complaints and the ridicule. But those individuals that take that first step and do things that have not been done, those that are considered controversial, not because they're doing anything bad, but just because they're doing something that nobody else is doing, those are the individuals that change and transform the world that we live in, because they're bold enough to step out on faith and do what they feel is beneficial, not only to them, but to the planet at large. So today's topic, Reverend Ike, is me being able to pay homage to Reverend Ike's legacy, Reverend Ike's mindset, Reverend Ike's approach. When I was growing up, if you said Reverend Ike, it was almost like a joke, because people always said, well, Rev is trying to, seduce people out of their money, and he's making you pay for prayer cloths and just all these different things. And I wasn't around at that time in the 70s when Rev was rocking, Rev was, doing his thing. But the one thing I do know is that I listen to the words and I see the impact of how his words have transformed not only people's lives, but my life as well. And I can talk about this from a place of objectivity, because I have never given anything to Reverend Ike's ministry. I wasn't seduced into paying for anything or whatever people were saying about what he did. But the one thing I do know is that I was listening to him one day, and he said something that was so simple, but yet profound. He says, listen, I have messages for you that are prepared for 1,000 years from now. So even as I'm in the grave, my messages will still impact you. I will still speak to you from the grave. And when he said that in the 70s, everybody's like, what? Like, people didn't really know how to react or respond to that. And immediately it clicked for me. This is what he's talking about. I'm listening to this guy right now, and this guy been physically dead for years, but his words are having a tremendous impact on me. See, people get caught up in all the wrong things, and they latch on to whatever their mindset is. They latch on to that thing, and then they hold on to it, and then they never let it go. But they never catch what the true big picture is. And that is how people get caught up, because you're looking at one thing, being distracted by it because of what you were taught and how you were conditioned to think, and you're missing out on the whole message. You're missing out on the whole big picture of what is being said. And that's not just with Reverend Ike, that's with anything in general. People are afraid of whoever's first, and the person that is receiving ridicule and becoming and called controversial, people don't want any part of that. But if you look back on it, those individuals that were called those things, you have to see what impact did their quote unquote controversy make. If it did something good and it advanced people in their lives, in their careers, in their relationships, then they really weren't controversial at all. They were just doing something that nobody wanted to do at the time, and they were considered ahead of their time. I'm still getting busy off of messages from Reverend Ike in the 60s, in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? That's fresh today in 2018 and beyond, because he was so forward thinking and he saw this thing for what it really was, that now I get an opportunity to piggyback off of the information that he gave. And now I get a chance to take that information and share it with this new generation and beyond. You know what I'm saying? So I believe and I feel like my words will impact people for thousands of years. So I don't have a problem getting in my car or going into the studio or interviewing somebody or being interviewed by somebody to share what I know, because I know the power of the spoken word, and I know the power of the spoken word creates the life that we have, and it'll always create the life that we have, because that's what the word does. You know what I'm saying? You speak things into existence, and then what you speak into existence becomes tangible, and once it becomes tangible, it becomes your life, and once it becomes your life, you understand how valuable and how powerful your words really are. So speak life and speak health, speak prosperity into your situation, speak positivity into your situation. Oh, well, everything is not positive. Some things are negative. Right. We know some things are negative. In fact, there's a bunch of things that are negative. So why do you need to add to that negativity by speaking negativity into your situation? You don't need to speak negativity into existence, because negativity is already there. You need to speak positivity. You need to speak life. You need to speak health. You need to speak wealth into your situation. And for those of you that are cynical, and those of you that always got something slick to say or always got a rebuttal, here's what I'm going to say to you. Take your cynical ass, your rebuttal always having ass in the mirror, because that's where you got to go. Don't rebuttal me. Don't be cynical with me or anybody else that's trying to put you onto something. Go in the mirror and deal with that person in the mirror, because at the end of the day, you can have the greatest rebuttal and the greatest, deepest thought response to whatever anybody's trying to tell you. You can do that and argue with people all day, because I know a lot of people that just like to argue just for the sake of arguing. Do me a favor. Keep that same energy and go into the mirror and argue with that person and get to the point where you recognize and you understand that you're the one that's holding yourself back. Not anybody, not anything else. I don't waste my time arguing. I used to waste time going back and forth with people until I realized, wait a minute, this isn't going anywhere. And the reason why it's not going anywhere is because that person isn't going anywhere. So why am I spending my time arguing, going back and forth with somebody that's not going anywhere? You want to sit there and tell me, oh, well, you know that don't work and this and that. No doubt. I'm not going back and forth with you about that. We're not sitting here going back and forth trying to prove who's right and who's wrong. I'm not doing that. I'm going to go back and forth with myself, and I'm going to get myself to the point where I need to be so that I can do what I need to do to put myself and my family in a space where we need and where we deserve to be. So I don't have time to go back and forth with you about theology or psychology or philosophy or whatever. I'm doing my thing, and I'm figuring this thing out for me. And that's the thing we got to understand. That's what Reverend Ike was trying to tell us. Everything you need is already within you. You don't need to go outside yourself to get anything. You don't. I call this podcast and my book The Empire Within. Why? Because I know that I have an empire within me, and I know that you have an empire within you. And it's only a matter of you being able to find out what that empire is by spending time with yourself and figuring out, what is this empire that I have within me that'll provide for my family for generations to come, that'll meet my every need today and not tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that most people don't want to do, because it's going to take some time, and they don't have that time, that kind of time. So they wind up wasting 40, 50 years doing something that they don't want to do, living where they don't want to live, driving what they don't want to drive, having money that they don't want to have, because they don't want to take the time to invest in finding out what it really is from themselves. Stop wasting your time arguing with people, trying to prove something doesn't work. Go into that mirror and get it together on your own. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stop wasting time blaming everybody else for your failure. You damn sure don't give them credit for your success. So if you're not going to give them credit for your success, then don't blame them for your failure. The mirror is where you go. The mirror is where you go. You want to get anything fixed? Go to the mirror. Now, for those of you that are sitting there saying, well, the mirror is not where I go, I submit myself in prayer. No doubt. Go to the mirror, submit yourself in prayer, and in the theater of your mind, as you pray, what will happen is, based on how you think, you will either liberate yourself or you'll put yourself in bondage, and that prayer that you said will go wherever you send it. I'll say that again. When you put yourself in a space of prayer, you'll either liberate yourself based on where your mind is, or you'll put yourself in bondage based on where your mind is. So even prayer has to have a positive state of mind in order for it to go anywhere, in order for things to change. It's not just this thing that you whisper and then go about your business. No, when you pray, the expectation should be that when I do this, something's going to change. That's why I'm doing it. I wouldn't do it if nothing's going to change. If that's the case, I don't need to pray. But when I want my situation to change and I want my situation to be made whole, I pray, I submit myself, I humble myself, because I recognize and I understand that there is someone, something greater at work. I call it God, right? Someone, something greater at work that hears me. And as I believe, as I trust, I recognize and I understand that this is going to do something that's going to change my situation. And that's something that you have to have. Nobody can give that to you. So don't sit there wasting your time trying to argue, going back and forth. It's a waste of time, people. It's a waste of time. Whenever you got a problem, whenever you got a beef, the mirror is where you go. That's where you go. The mirror is where you go. When you got a problem, when you got a beef. Don't let these people fool you into thinking that it's somebody else's fault. So you waste time, you waste decades blaming other people for some shit that you did. But you don't give them credit for when you do well, but you give them blame when you don't do well. It can't be both. Figure it out. Shout out to Reverend Ike's legacy. Shout out to his family. God bless you. Thank you for your words. And I just want to continue to impact the world, you know, in any way that I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? Because Rev was doing this thing, packing out arenas in the 60s and 70s. You know what I'm saying? And that's huge. That is huge. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to be able to make an impact in the world, and I want my voice to be heard as well. So shout out to Reverend Ike's family, and shout out to the work that was done during the time that he was around, and the work that's still being done from that ministry. So with that being said, I want to say thank you to everyone who subscribes to the Empire Within.